Hello there, my name's Annette with Sunbeam Fabric Art. Welcome to my channel. Today is video number 2 in a 3-part series. I bought this quilt kit at a garage sale for $6. Some people might find these fabrics ugly. I am not a fan of these pastel fabrics, but I got some help from a good friend and she suggested pairing them with navy blue to modernize them. In the first video, I used up almost all of the white background fabric that came with the quilt kit, but I did not use up all the pastel fabric. These strips have been cut into 2 and 1.5 inch pieces, and today I'm going to use those up and make a second charity quilt. Now, similar to the first quilt, in which I did a 6-piece strip set, I used a navy on the outside of the strip and 4 pastels on the inside of the strip. But this time I'm going to make 6 pastels into 1 strip set. And what you see me doing here is sorting them out so that each strip set is different. I did a little figuring on how much the opposite strip tube piece would need to be, but honestly I decided to wait until the end to cut that other fabric. So we're going to get started sewing these strip sets together. Starting with the stack of 2 strips on the left, I'm going to stitch all these strips into pairs. When I got to the end of the first round, those 2 strips on the left were all done. I was ready to start the 3rd and 4th strip. I just put a piece of navy fabric through the machine, so when I'm separating this chain, I'll know what goes where, because all these strip sets are going to look alike. With the first pairs all put together, I separated my chains and put these strips back into the piles where I started. Now I'm going to flip the entire set of strips around the opposite way. This is because when we're doing long strip sets like this, the seams have a tendency to bow. So if you sew all the lines the same way, you may get a bow effect on your strips and they may not be straight. By flipping the next seam around the opposite way and putting these strip sets together, we get straighter seams. I went through and joined strips 1 and 2 to strips 3 and 4. Then I broke that chain and added on the last 2 strips. Here's a look at those finished strip sets. There are 6 strips. 3 of them are wider, 3 of them are narrower, and they alternate. I'm going to press all these strip sets nice and flat. The way I like to do it is the wrong side of the fabric, and I'll press the iron straight across. I'll leave a little gap and press the iron straight across again, and then I'll go back and fill in those gaps. I measured my finished strip set and it came out to 7.5 inches. On quilt number 1 of this project, I used the white background fabric from the kit to make these nice wide solid strips to be the opposite side of my strip tube. But I have this navy fabric that I used partly in that first quilt, and I have enough of this to make 7.5-inch width of fabric strips here, and that is going to be paired up with my strip tube. Now I do have some leftovers here, and hold on, project 3 of this series is going to cover what I do with all the leftovers from both of these first 2 quilts. I'm going to pair up my navy batik fabric strips, right sides together, with my pastel strip sets. Now, to keep everything nice and straight, I'm going to just put some straight pins right down the middle of these strip tube sets that I'm making, so the fabric doesn't shift around on me as I sew down one side and then flip the strip set around and sew down the other side. Now it was time to stitch down one side of the strip tube set and then stitch down the other side. Next, it was time to cut the blocks out of these tubes. I do have a specialty strip tube ruler, but I just want to show you how I do it using a regular ruler. My regular 12.5-inch ruler has a diagonal line that's a 45-degree angle. I'm going to lay that diagonal line right on the line I stitched, and then I'm going to cut an angle. Now, if you're using that triangle strip tube ruler, you have to turn the ruler around. But with a square ruler like this with the diagonal line, you just move that diagonal line up to the top seam and line that up with the stitch line, and then you will cut another angle, and that will give you your square block when you open that up. To make sure your squares are the same, you just line up that angle cut with the stitch line at the top. And you can always square those blocks if you want to. Once you have these strip tube blocks, you can do all kinds of layouts with them. Think about your half square triangle layouts. If you've got some kind of cheat sheet for half square triangle quilt layouts, here you go. Because we're using the solid fabric for one half of the strip tube, it makes a half square triangle look with that high contrast. Similar to the first quilt, I looked at these various layouts and I decided to just go ahead and go with the diamond look again. Well, this strip tube set had a lot more cutoffs than the first quilt. We've got lots of extras, we've got some extra strips, but first things first, let's get quilt project number 2 done. We're going to sew these blocks together into diamonds and make as big a quilt as we can. I'm going to stitch 2 blocks together first, side by side, and I'm going to make sure those colorful triangle peaks meet in the middle. Since all these strip tubes measured the same, it was pretty easy to nest the seams. Once I got all the first round of pairs stitched together, I started joining 2 pairs into a width of 4. Unfortunately, I only had 30 blocks, which meant I needed a 5 by 6 layout, and that meant I would have one row of half diamonds that I could not complete, but I was okay with that. I continued stitching these blocks and these rows together until I had completed the quilt top. And here is that second finished quilt top. It's a nice size for a kid's quilt. And I know that some people will just not really care for that unfinished diamond row. I'm okay with it, and I think with a contrasting binding, maybe just on that one side of the quilt, and then a lighter binding on the opposite three sides, that would be interesting and make this stand out, or I may choose to do a border. As always, your likes and comments are truly appreciated and do help support the channel. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you back next time.